Welcome back, everybody, to Overdunk. This is episode 79 of your favorite competitive Pokemon Unite podcast, and this is the Worlds Recap episode. The World Championships for Season 2 have come and gone, and we have the exact same champion this time around, now running under the Luminosity Gaming banner. So then, obviously, we can't start this show any other way than a huge congratulations to you and all the boys that were playing on stage, and of course the rest of your staff, Morning and Junkie. We got to mention the whole crew and just the LG org, but honestly, on a pretty amazing tournament run. You dropped one map, but other than that, you absolutely dominated the world again.
I hyped up Soul Esports too much on the podcast.
That's true. You blessed them. They look sick. I mean, we talked about how good All Might was, and I think they absolutely popped up. It was a great tournament. We're gonna be talking so much about Worlds and a lot of stuff. Maybe some what's to come. We're gonna be talking, if we got time, a little bit of the wish list, but of course we're gonna talk some recent topics, and we of course are happening on Twitter, but also a little bit about the Chinese beta. I mean, there's a lot of discussion topics to fit into one episode, so let's get into the intros. Of course, I got Doopsnacks and Ven with me as per usual. Doopsnacks, how have you been? Have you adjusted to the jet lag? It's been a minute, but you had a bit of a longer vacation.
I have not adjusted
Perfect
at all. So, you know, we're doing that. Other than that, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about some Pokemon Unite. I feel like you can't put like us three on ice that long about this game because we're all about it. So I'm excited to chat about it for sure.
That's true. I was literally just thinking today, I was like, I mean, the vacation right after Worlds was super fun. I had a blast, but it was also weird to not be just immersed in Unite for a few days. I was like, yeah, this is strange. But I did have a blast in Japan. We'll talk lots about it. Then, how about you though? Unfortunately, you weren't able to make it out to Worlds in person. I'm sure you were watching as much as you possibly could. Obviously, you got to cheer on the squad. But how have you been in the last couple of weeks? Leading up to this podcast episode.
A good portion of the reason why I couldn't go was because I had started a new job.
Yep.
So that's been exciting. Setting up the queer server and all that's been pretty good. Obviously very happy with the results. I wasn't able to attend much of the practice leading up to it just due to how Japan's schedule works, but all in all, I'm very proud of what they accomplished, and I don't know, just generally good mood right now.
Great. Well, that's awesome. Let's keep those good vibes going at the top of the show, and let's dive into our Worlds talk already. And let's just start out blanket first question. Let's just start with a classic. What was everyone's favorite part of Worlds this year round? Maybe not favorite match. Maybe we'll leave that to a second question, but it could be a specific match if that's really your favorite part. But just a general favorite thing about Worlds. Ven, let's start with you. You were watching from home. What was your favorite part about the World Championships? Ven?
You had no favorite parts. You hated everything.
It's okay. Okay, apparently Ven's mic died. They'll be back in 1 second. Dupes next. Fill in for her, please, while she is, wrestling with that hatred. What was your favorite part of Worlds this year?
What was my favorite part of Worlds? My favorite part of Worlds was casting it, of course.
Sure.
That can't go understated. I had such a good time. I think specifically as a broadcast crew, I think everyone crushed, which was a nice feeling. I don't think anybody felt particularly weak or off at any given time.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Like, it's super, super exciting. That's not super common either. So it was nice that we all coalesced, came together there, and actually brought the house down. So terrific.
Yeah. Bridget saying, I liked when Spriggles kept saying Inteleon gently and Dupes next side heavily each time. That's pretty good. But yeah, chat, please participate in conversation as much as possible this episode. So if you want to say your favorite part, please say it in chat. What's up, Vin?
I think my favorite part of Worlds was the Psyche Doob Snacks reaction image.
Oh my gosh, that
was
so good. I was
those were
roaring
bangers.
laughing in the hotel. I was like, there's no way this happened. I was laughing.
How did she
so
get
hard.
that one? I still don't know.
Like the one at the back of my head.
Yeah.
It's like from behind a stage. Folks, there are giant cameras and lights back there. Who got a camera in there? I have no idea. Oh my gosh. It was so fun. Yeah, I know Sneaky was saying they actually couldn't hear the casting in the audience because of the Sherry. I know. It's been a long time problem with the Pokemon stuff, but I'm glad
so
we had
I will say one thing about that, Zoinks. I don't think it's any surprise at this point that we tussle with the other games a little bit, and the volume on VGC was definitely turned up during the second day, which is a bummer, of course. I think we can all agree with that. So rest assured, though, and I do want to make sure everybody is with us, that Will, the beautiful person on our side of the fence that fights for Pokemon Unite, was just as upset about that situation as we were, and did not take that particularly lightly, and was fighting for us to get more of the balance in the share there. So shout out to Will, always trying to look out for us.
Yeah. Will's the GOAT. I mean, if you know him, you already know that for sure. But I'm gonna say my favorite part of Worlds. I feel like I say this after every live event, but I'm always like, my favorite part of Worlds was the crowd, because I mean, it really was every single time. This time was for a different reason, though. I mean, if you weren't informed of how World Championships work this year, we had so many games to get through. We'll talk about format later on this episode for sure. But we had an A stage that was played on the main stage. We had a B stage that did have had a big viewing screen, didn't have commentary, but it did have a live YouTube stream, which was so cool. We were really pumped that happened, and there was a crowd available there, and then there were a C and D stage as well. The crowd for the B stage was always dope, because every time a Japanese team was playing, the house was packed on the B stage, so it was so fun to watch. And the crowd was going absolutely nuts for the Japanese teams, which was really cool. And then, of course, we have a very loud and energetic side for the NA and EU teams. And they were going kind of nuts. Even LATAM had some great fans out there, the crowd. APAC had a great showing from the crowd in day 2. It was it was so much fun. So that was definitely by far my favorite part, is just feeling that energy. It's kind of, I don't know. There's nothing much like it. I'll say that for sure.
It was great. Yeah. For the grand final specifically too. We had half the stage. They actually moved VGC and TCG over.
Yeah.
So we could have half of the stage space,
cool.
and crowd space and screen space. And we had both of those, half the sections filled. We had part of, I think it was VGC, that was the next one over, filled. And then the whole B stage area was full too. Now, granted, I say full. The first 3 rows didn't have anybody at the main stage because it was under the monitor and you couldn't like see the screen, which was why every shot you see, those seats are empty. So I'm not like trying to blow smoke, but like that is the reason those seats were empty. Because if they were in a reasonable spot, there would have been butts in those seats.
It's so hard to like showcase to people. They're like, wow, empty crowd. You're like, no, it's just those are the worst seats. Like I don't know how to describe it. And I swear I'm not being like a defender. I don't know, whatever. Then when you were watching at home on the broadcast, was the crowd energy kind of visible? How did it come across, like production wise, to you when it was
the crowd energy was super visible. I think they, generally speaking, were smart about their camera work and tried to not put emphasis on the front 3 rows.
It's like, yeah, I don't even know how you would get around it, whatever. But yes, continue.
But yeah, like it was an overall really, really well produced event. Obviously, we had a couple of hiccups. Most of those, as far as we're aware, were not production's fault.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have some stuff to say on a couple of those when we get to it. But yeah, I think production wise and tech wise, this event ran quite well.
Yeah.
On A stage, everything ran extremely well. I know B, C, and D had a few technical issues, and that is a bummer. That's occurring. To be maybe a point in our credit, maybe we don't count it. We were easily one of the least tech issue riddled games at the event. If you were looking at any of the other games, that was rough. But hey,
VGC, Monka Giga.
oh my gosh, I feel bad for
Be
them.
glad we're not those people right now.
Exactly.
Good God.
Exactly. Good timing. Good timing for us. But hey, it was yeah, it was a pretty fantastic event. Let's start talking about a few of the games though. Does anybody have a favorite match? Fen, we can start with you again if you have one at the top of mind. But what was your favorite match to watch, to cheer on LG, or just even to see in general on the day?
If we're talking Luminosity specific matches, probably LG Oyasumi.
Okay. Yeah. Great match.
That one was a great match.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're talking, or sorry, it was Oyasumi. I like, my brain is totally fried. We might have played MJK.
I mean, you played Oyasumi for
we did
non-grants, but earlier in the day, early in top 8, yes.
We did play it at one point. My brain is fried.
Mm-hmm.
I apologies. It was I was playing it before the show. Very long day of work.
Yes.
Anyway, but no, that was my favorite. Was that match?
Cool.
And then my overall favorite, I would have to say, was the absolute 3-game banger that was Omo versus 0-0.
Yeah, that was a great game. Oh my gosh, that was a good game. I really, really enjoyed that one too. That's a good shout out. Okay. Deuce next. How about you? What is your vouch for favorite match?
SAUL LG, no question.
Really?
That was an absolute flamethrower. I love that. There was no better team to wake up the LG giant than India. Like, as a region, they needed that showing on the world stage.
Yeah.
I think they came with the most well-rehearsed and practiced game 1 strategy against LG, no question, and delivered. And I think that was quite evident. Kind of a sideways draft, but I mean, they made it happen. And that was just exciting. I mean, it's fun because, India was the only team to take a game off of LG. That's huge. That's not nothing. I just found that incredibly exciting. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, I think that was, obviously outside of the grand finals and crowning a champion, which is just tough to beat on any axis. That's what I would say there.
Okay. That's a really good one. I think my personal favorite, my favorite one to cast was Tally versus 0-0. That was just sick. It was the cap of a day. It was an amazing game. The stakes just felt so freaking high. It was an intense match. I mean, for 0-0, they just felt on top of the world. So that was really cool. However, a B stage game that I think deserves more credit, and if people want to go back in the analogs and dig it up in the YouTube feed, is MYS versus MJK. That game is unreal.
My God, it was...
Because
so
you know what? I don't need everyone to watch it. I just need Spraggles to watch it so he can understand how good Luca Post-Scyther actually is. Okay? Yes, it didn't pop off in top 8. I know, but there's a reason it was target banned against this team. Luca Po is something else. Like, he was like, this kid is unbelievable. In day 1, he was cooking. MJK was a real highlight for me at this tournament.
I am sad that MJK never went back to the Cramorant.
Yeah, serious. Okay, yeah, there's a lot to talk about in MJK. They're a team that I think we'll be talking about for a while. At least a few of those players for quite some time, I think. Especially a team that kind of came out of like seemingly nowhere. Like whenever we talked to we got a chance to talk to the Japanese commentators a little bit more than I feel like we did at last Worlds. And they were talking about MJK as like, yeah, I mean, just the biggest thing for them is going to be nerves. Like they're all so young. This is their first time like really competing in something like this. Outside of Sona, who competed at the high school finals like the weekend before, but like which is just cool too. Japan gets so many freaking tournaments. But anyway, I thought that was really cool. But yeah, okay. I mean, that's our favorite things, favorite matches. I mean, we're gonna be pretty long on time for this podcast episode in general, but let's do a little bit like biggest surprise team for you with the tournament. Juice next was SAUL. Gonna already take the cake for you, or is there a different team that you think was like biggest surprise?
Um, I kind of want to give it to Omo, just because
Yeah.
I don't think anybody predicted that run. I don't think anybody had it in the galaxy realm of possibility.
Yeah.
So I think you have to give it to them just for going all the way to the grand finals on an absolutely like banger losers run. That was great to watch and keep track of, and it was exciting. You could see kind of they were eating, like feeding and getting up on their own wins as they were kind of beating the odds every single time. So I'll have to tip the cap to Omo.
Ooh, I like the Omo shout. Yeah, I definitely think none of us had them going all the way to grands and predictions. I will say they were one of our few correct group predictions. So shout out to this show.
I will
get
say this.
that.
When I logged into Unite after the World Championships, I only got the participation tickets. Let's just say that.
I had LG in second.
You didn't believe?
So I did okay there. Oh, Tally, how did you do? Anyway, biggest surprise for me, Actual by far. I will say on paper I had career rated quite low headed into this tournament, but I mean, Sforel, Chobo putting on a show.
I have
yet again.
opinions on that based on the stories I have heard from those matches. I will put it that way.
Really? Okay. Well, maybe there's some controversy in it, but either way, pretty far run for them. So shout out to Actual. How about you, Ven? Biggest surprise for you?
I was gonna say Omo. Damn it.
You can say Omo. That's
You
fine.
are allowed to say the same thing.
Yeah.
I know, but like it, you know what? Yeah, I'll just go Omo. Like obviously, I thought that one of the APAC teams was gonna make a pretty deep run. They weren't they weren't anywhere near the first in my mind in that regard though, and they really showed up.
Yeah. I remember talking to like as many players as I could, like analysts like you, Ven, like in your position, like, all right, scrim data, give it to me. And then Toon actually tweeted out that his scrim tier list later on, and I was like, that actually looks pretty close to what I was hearing, what I was seeing in API. It's pretty cool. But everyone was talking like APAC so much better than we thought. It was like really cool to see that. And Luis, is it Luis? I don't know. Either way, their Mew game in that like losers finals match was just ridiculous. So cool. So cool to see that.
Their Leafeon was sick too.
Yeah, their Leafeon looks sick. I mean, they're like that. One of those games happens, I feel, or like one team kind of finds that magic every Worlds where they don't play the traditional stuff. They just play what works for them, and like whatever the opponent's draft, like they'll just have to deal with it, and they have a crazy run. Fortunately, they had to face LG on a day where they just weren't losing games. So unfortunately, that strat didn't work out in the grand finals. But I mean, in every other game, like Omo was just on another level. It's really cool, really cool to see. But yeah, again, people just like showcasing interest at SAUL. Definitely the biggest surprise, just to be able to take a game off LG. So, that was really cool. So yeah, I mean, a lot of cool talk about Worlds. I mean, LG having some amazing success here again at the end of the season. 2 tournament wins in total as well. So, and I mean, capping that off with the World Championship, pretty incredible. It was really fun to talk to you.
Our third?
Didn't you win? I thought you won 2 tournament titles, and then
I think it was our third.
Yes, yeah. This will be your third tournament win on the season. Pretty good tournament to do it in to round out that trophy case. I will say, very fun to like run into LG on Sunday, like after they won, and just see them glowing. Mostly Overlord because he actually got his jacket this year. They were very pumped about that. So that was really cool to see. Fun to see that crew with smiles on their faces again. It was pretty awesome. But yeah, let's get into a bit more nitty gritty about Worlds. What do we want to start with first? Should we start with metagame maybe? That was a pretty interesting thing to talk about. At Worlds felt like it was it was pretty huge variety. Which is not really a big surprise. When we hit top 8, we had like a way more diverse top 8 than I think a lot of people expected. 2 Japanese teams, 2 APAC East teams, but then a smattering of other Western teams in there and 1 Korean team. So like, a very big spread from across the world. That was really cool. Then in like your and the team's preparation leading into Worlds, was this metagame about what you expected to see, or was there any big surprise from you?
Yeah, I'd say that this is about what I expected, and like probably generally speaking, we like leading up overrated Inteleon, underrated Lapras a little bit
Yeah.
in both those cases. But other than that,
I think a lot of teams learned that lesson, especially ones that made it to day 2. I think.
Lapras.
Yeah, Lapras is a very strong Pokemon. Well said by Slash, by the way. Man, LG throwing me every curveball in the book on that stage, by the way. That was, that was pretty good. I had a lot
Elo's
of fun.
endless enthusiasm.
Oh my gosh. It was a lot of, I thought it was funny. The crowd loved it. The crowd cheered him on and stuff. It was great.
Yeah. All in all, like, I feel like a lot of the metagame wasn't like super hard. Like, it wasn't super hard to figure out what were going to be like the really good picks. Zacian kind of sealing its spot as like a solid, like high A tier pick.
Yeah.
Both bears turning up in big fashion.
Both bears? I feel like Dark Bear seemed pretty weak to me compared to Blue Bear, but maybe I'm just misremembering.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Dark Bear lost a lot of games, but I don't feel like in the games that Dark Bear lost that it was the problem.
Okay.
I think it looked powerful in the games it lost. I just think that there were other things going on.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll wait for the VOD reviews. We can talk about it then. But okay. That's fair enough. Deuce next. How about you? Any thoughts around metagame? Did it make kind of sense to what you were expecting? Any big surprises meta-wise that kind of threw you?
I have to agree with Spraggles when we were casting. Like, Snipe Shot and Teleon was not it. It just did not look particularly. I mean, its best moment was like the first game of the day when Lutano had like the pop off, but then in the same match was just like, what is this Pokemon? Like at the end of that same game, you're like, what is this turd we're looking at right now? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't think Inteleon was the problem with that last team fight, is what I will say to that.
All right, fair enough. I mean, but
there was a lot of things wrong with that last team fight.
Still, I mean, the impact overall in the day, I don't think it could be really argued. Like,
I think somebody went through and like counted all the snipe shots, and I believe the total accuracy was just shy of 30%.
Oof.
Oof. Which is gonna make the pick look pretty bad.
Yeah. Dude, I forget who was having that Twitter conversation. I think it was Kiro and Black were having this like debate back and forth. And one of them was like, well, yeah, Snapshot's great, but just all the players were missing their shots. And we're like, yeah. That's why it's bad. If it can be missed and you're missing them in critical moments, I mean, maybe the character just hasn't been fully explored. Maybe whatever. We'll get to it. But Deuce Next, any more meta things that we're missing?
Is there any more? You want to talk about like Luca Poe's
Scyther pick?
Scyther.
Yeah. I thought it was sick.
What if he was just playing Water Bear instead? Because they were going banana lands on that. They
were. Who did they eventually lost to Oyasumi Macro though, right? Which, I mean, that was like such a big priority Pokemon because P was like carrying that team on Urshifu. So it was really interesting because MJK was like, well, we're gonna Lucapo's a little more flexible. We can save his pick to later in the draft, but then he was never getting Urshifu because Oyasumi Macro was dedicating towards it. It was an interesting. I think you're right. Maybe if MJK switched up their strategy a little bit, maybe it would have been better. I don't know. Right. But yeah, I mean, he's amazing. Lucapo is a freaking star.
Like player is mad good.
I love watching that player play.
It was Yeah. Water Bear was sick. I think it
Mm-hmm.
had a really great tournament overall as well. Italian Snipe Shot is turds. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
it.
Fair
I
enough.
think that'll bundle that one up for me.
Okay. Um. Okay. So we talked a little bit about meta. I mean, in terms of I was I thought from the amount of Gudra we saw do well, I expected to see more Gudra.
I agree.
But in day 2, felt like we barely saw any. I may be.
Well, the
totally
problem
misremembering
is,
now.
right?
Yeah, talk
Why
to me
would you
about the.
pick it over Lapras?
Yeah, that's true.
And then
Yeah,
you just kind
maybe
of end up in the
against. Is it better
situation.
against Zacian than Lapras?
No.
Okay. I don't know. Falb looked really good on it, but
Falb cooked on it for sure.
Falb was
but I don't
cooking.
know.
Also,
just feel
I
like-
expected a whole lot more invading than we saw.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just because from Worlds last year, I was really accustomed to like other regions, like especially Eastern regions, like particular Korea, particular Japan, where like all invade all the time. And it felt like those regions that kind of had to find that identity as their identity in number 1 sort of cooled off a little bit into year number 2 in terms of like just, you know, having that aggressive. I would say that they're like aggressive playstyle if they take an early lead, they put on the pressure constantly. I'm like, well, that will stay the same, but like it wasn't like start of the game, frame 1, we were invading your jungle. Like it wasn't every single time. So that was interesting to see. But yeah. Let's talk about maybe a few critiques that we had around Worlds, because let's have that discussion too. I mean, there was a fair amount of stuff discussed. Every year, every competition, there's always something to be better. Ven, let's start with you. You were obviously watching from home, so you're maybe a little more aware of what chat was saying and everything like that. Anything like around Worlds discussion, things like that you would like to see improved if we went into a next season?
About format?
We could do before format or really anything in general if there was anything else on your mind. I think we'll definitely talk about format. So if there's something else on your mind, you can bring it up here.
Dude,
but...
I just let us play 3 days. There's no way we're getting that much Unite done in that amount of time. It's just not realistic.
Yeah.
And it led to problems. Everybody knew it was going to lead to problems.
I think 3 days. And not just the championship on Championship Sunday. I honestly think that Worlds as a whole, with how big of an event it is every year, it's literally PokeCon every year, right? Like, I think that you could extend this event even longer into the week. Especially with how Japan did the event. Like, there were so many, like, side events and like, things like that, like, just surrounding the Worlds event. And I know players and especially staff, we just barely got a chance to really participate in any of those, like the SSN, the cool park. Like, I got to see a few of these things, but, like, there was so much. So just, like, even extending the event, yes, more broadcasted games is important. But yeah, just having more longer formats would be really sick. That'd be great. Yeah. Day 3 would be awesome. Deuce next. Anything in your mind that you were thinking?
I think overall the format needs to be reworked a little bit. I think logistically it's easier to have a better season-based strategy than a Worlds shuffling of adding days or... Because, like, if you keep 32 teams, like, adding us a third day just to be on Championship Sunday doesn't actually buy us anything.
Well,
right?
that's what I'm saying, right? Like, it can't be a third day with just one game move.
That's
like,
yeah,
it
and I
need
agree.
To be different than that.
I agree, which I think logistically it's easier to shift how the UCS season is built and structured and how people are invited and things like that than it would be to extend Worlds in some fashion, right? Because we already know it's set in stone. Like, we don't have the dates, but that venue is booked for the amount of time it has. Like, that's an immovable object at this point. So you have to work within what is dealt to you. What those changes are, I don't know. I'd have to chew on it. I've got some ideas kind of rolling around my head, but nothing well fleshed out enough that I'd like to like just throw out into the ether and get a whole bunch of rabid animals biting on a piece of meat like that and dragging me down into the depths of hell. As we all know, Twitter ends up bringing people. So I'll just I'll just leave it at that.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, that's true. Um, okay, I yeah, yeah. Bridget really wanted to bring you down to the depths of hell. That's very Bridget of her. In particular with your rivalry between the two of you.
Probably would have had a better chance if you didn't move away or move
That's-
halfway across the country just to get away from me.
So true. I love this storyline, by the way. For those of you who have been participating and following along, it's been quite good. If I was looking, I mean, maybe that's just the conversation we're all gonna have, right? 32 teams. I with these big of with these small of groups, I shouldn't say big. Just one series defining your world's fate. It's a bummer. I really do hope that can be avoided. I will say, I think this format was leagues better than last year in terms of like the roster shuffling, the group poll being random like that. I enjoyed it. I know that there was like some groups definitely felt more favored. I understand that frustration. I don't think you are ever going to avoid that unless there is more than one international competition a year. And if we can get to that point in the future, great. But otherwise, I don't know how to seed international competition fairly without eye-rolly, like eye test conversations. I don't think that those actually exist. So, that's my personal opinion on those. And I do think that some players have some points. Some of how it would get rearranged. Maybe those are valid, but I don't know. Personally, I think where that structure is at, it's great. But yeah, maybe inviting less teams next year is a better answer. To just making these groups a little more succinct, making broadcast a little bit shorter. Day 2 was extremely long. Yeah, a randomly selected group, like team change, moving to another group. Also, I don't know how that that team who didn't show up got away with what they did. Apparently, like, I don't know. Sorry. I don't know if that is, I don't think this is me revealing anything, but just like, the admins weren't aware they were going to have to make that change until like media day. So I don't know like where the miscommunication was, but that team was definitely saying they were coming until a last minute change. So that's wild. That's really wild.
Who was that?
The second seed Indian team.
FS Esports, yeah.
Oh,
FS,
yes.
I mean, look, the gap between the first place Indian team and the second place Indian team was not particularly small.
Right. No, I know you were.
Anyway,
yeah,
so.
you were mentioning like they were definitely weren't planned to be doing extremely well. It's just their absence definitely caused a pretty huge shift in how the tournament.
I think they should have just given them 0-3 and just moved on with the group as is instead of shifting it last minute.
I a lot of debates could be had.
It's a joke.
I mean, honestly, it's like it was a viable option probably, but I don't know. Yeah. That is, yeah. I mean, if we don't have any more to talk about that, we can, yeah, we can probably move on from Worlds talk, unless there's anything else that we wanted to talk about the World Championships before we move on.
Yeah, I had a little something, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Do
So I kind of have this not theory, just this thing I've been mulling around. It's probably not as based as I think or want it to be, but I really think that LG making it out and being the only NA and EU team in day 2 was like the sickest thing possible to happen. Because there's a reason that LG can be beaten by NA and EU. And it's because of repetition and the amount of time that they play each other, whether it's on ladder, individually, communicate, things like that. And when it comes to other regions, and I know you've scrimmed against them and things like that, but in terms of just other regions, you can watch a video of somebody riding a bull and you can tell somebody how to ride a bull and you can tell somebody how difficult it is to ride a bull, but that doesn't mean you can get in there and ride a bull, right? And if you're facing LG for the first time, it's drinking water. It's like drinking water from a fire hose. and it like that's what day 2 looked like to me. It was just a bunch of teams that that just couldn't handle, like they just couldn't hang, like they just didn't know what was going on. Because I think LG were the best team to get out of groups. Yeah, I think the day 2 LG was the best team, no question, like head and shoulders above everybody else. But I think you'd be hard pressed to convince me that the LG team we saw on day 2 was the LG team we've been watching all year, because I just can't agree with that. The power level of all the players is of course there. Nobody's ever going to deny that. But them coming alive on day 2 really showed how strong they are, and how strong I think people like myself always expected and wanted to see from them all year long. Because even when they were winning, it just didn't feel the same. But that day 2 LG, man, that was something special for sure. So just want to get that out there. It's just something I was like thinking about a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, all the credit in the world to them for coming alive and stepping up in exactly the right moment, day 2 of the World Championships.
It's a good storyline. It's a very good storyline. I liked that. I liked your team a lot this year, Vin. They were that World Championship run is something else. And actually, this is a fun story about Worlds. We were at an after party for like Pokemon staff. And Ray Rizzo, notable VGC champion, the most winningest player in VGC of all time, is a real tough problem for LG because back-to-back world championships, almost unheard of in esports, right? This is so incredible and amazing achievement. Problem is, in Pokemon, it's been done before. And in fact, Ray Rizzo has back-to-back-to-back world championships in VGC. So, unfortunately, LG, I'm going to need you to run it back yet again this time to be the most successful team in all of Pokemon history. So sorry to hear that. Yeah, we'll have to see what the future holds. But either way, I mean any player on that team, we'll have to see. So, but yeah, either way, in conclusion on our Worlds discussion, I think the event was truly amazing. I think a big upgrade from last year's World Championships in a lot of different ways, which was really, really cool. And yeah, I think we're only going to be getting bigger and better. We had more in-person events this year. That was so cool. I really hope those continue. I think we're going to have some fantastic competition going forward into year 3, which is going to be really cool. Okay. Well, we're going to move on to a few different discussion topics. Let's talk a little bit about the big hot button issue that a lot of people have been talking about on Twitter and stuff recently, which has been the Unite Chinese beta. Now, we all have some different opinions on this. Then I know that you were pretty outspoken that you think almost no changes or almost none of these things in the beta are going to make it over to live servers in the rest of the world. I'm maybe a little more optimistic to a few of them. We'll have to see. But Deuce, next, let's start with you on the discussion because I'm not too sure on your opinions. Have you seen any of this stuff yet? Is there anything that particularly excites you? Anything that worries you about this beta?
I don't think anything worries me. We were kind of having this conversation before, and I'm going to be honest. I don't have the mental capacity to deal with what might not be. So I'm just not going to invest any time with it. Like, I'll stay tangentially tuned in just because Unite is important, and I can't be completely caught unawares. But man, like, I cannot just be burning daylight trying to hypothesize what could be on a Chinese server. I just can't. And there's
a whole lot of changes within it too. I mean, if you want to check it out, there's a lot of content creators have made videos on it and stuff like that. Maybe Unite Max will put out something on our channel about it. I don't know yet, but I mean, there's an uncapped time limit. The game is decided by by getting to a score break point. So many objectives on the map. There's global scoring changes, blah blah blah. So many new things. Then why do you think that these changes will not be going global?
Well, it's actually really simple. Pokemon Unite China is Tencent's IP. Yes. Pokemon Unite Global is Pokemon's IP. The deciding voice is entirely different.
Yeah, that's true.
Fundamentally, reworking a game that already has an audience on a global stage is usually not a good idea. So I don't think that will happen. I think that there is a chance maybe like one or two of the character reworks, or if we're really, really lucky, the branching path upgrades makes it to global. That would be sick.
Be really cool.
Those are the two that are within reason. Everything else, I think, is completely off the table and is not even worth thinking about.
Yeah. The whole scoring mechanic being so different. The one thing I was excited about, and for those who haven't seen it, basically there's an additional set of
Janie
upgrades.
and I both know it's not happening.
You're right. Yeah, Toon wanting draft and ranked. I actually do genuinely think draft and ranked will be coming at some point. Who knows when, but I do think it will be coming at some point. But maybe that's just too optimistic. I in terms of the cool mechanics I like from the Chinese beta, I think when your team hits a overall score benchmark, then everybody on your team gets a new upgrade. I think that's a really cool mechanic. That would be a lot of fun if we were just gonna take like little details piecemeal over to our game. I think that would be interesting. But yeah. Yeah, people in chat saying, no Overdunk anymore. We would need to find a new podcast name. I tweeted that out. It's pretty disappointing. No one's mad about it. I know we all hate the podcast name. Anyways, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, but that being said, I think in actuality, obviously, not many of us have dug too much time into it. So, if you want to get more details on the Chinese beta, go check out the myriad of incredible Unite content creators out there. There's a lot of videos, a lot of intel. Apparently, Overdunk not the spot for it. That's okay. We'll get to it. We'll get to it one day if it makes it to global game.
We're too old.
Yeah, exactly. Now, okay, we're getting on this, and I do want to make this. I don't want to talk about this too much because I think this is a discussion that's been had quite a few times, even on this show already. Mm-hmm. But we've had another Twitter engagement going around these days. Some egos going a little unchecked in Redlock server, things like that.
Okay, look, I don't even get. First of all, I don't give a shit about Redlock. Let me make that clear. That was never about that.
Fair enough.
I mean, like obviously, like the inciting incident was in there, so like. Yes, I don't like that a bunch of people were getting shit on in the fucking VC where they're just trying to play the game, right? Like, I don't like that.
Fair.
I think that the amount of ego that flies around in this community from people that, like, will often struggle to, like, even perform at their best is very funny.
I think that generally speaking, that especially now that we're going into year 2 of the same map, which is different from last year.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, there's a lot of room for improvement still. Like, the map has been mostly solved, but there's a lot of refining to do. There's a lot of games that are just defined by people just throwing their leads away for literally no forced error, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so much work that everybody has to do. Nobody is anywhere near their theoretical peak, and yet here we are just laughing at others for not being as far along as we are. That's my point. That is all my point is.
No, I think that's fair. But I do think it opens up another kind of it opens up a few discussions, let's be honest. But I think the interesting discussion here is how close do we think that Unite has been? We're 2 years in now. Mechanical skills developed quite a bit. I had a conversation with a lot of the casters. I was like, do we think the overall skill level at Worlds in year 2 is higher than in year number 1? I think after day 2 at Worlds, or just in general at Worlds, I think that was a resounding yes. I think overall skill has been a lot more increased. But how close do we think we are to peak Unite? Is that a lifetime away? Are we nearing it? How close do we think we are to the peak? Then you just mentioned you don't think we're really even anywhere close to having it fully solved. Deuce next, how about you? Where do you think we are in terms of, if you were to look into the crystal ball that Spraggles predicted the correct teams and grands with, where would you say that we are close to peak level Unite as a competitive community? I don't want to bring this open or ranked and all that stuff. Like just as a top level performing Worlds caliber teams, how close do you think we are to the best we'll ever see?
Yeah, pretty far away, to be honest.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm just trying to use what we physically watched at the World Championships to kind of use as a metric, right? So Ven has a little bit more nuance and intelligence and understanding of the game in the minor details that brings them to that conclusion, and mine is just purely out of feel and what I see. Right, I don't think there's any confusion as to how I make my decisions or where I speak from. But when it's just is what it is. When taking a look at LG, a team that all year long has certainly had some less than stellar moments that didn't reflect peak Unite, and their ability to just all of a sudden erase, a large portion of those errors and destroy the other best teams in the world. I think that's a pretty easy measuring stick to say that we objectively aren't close.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So there you go. That's all. That's from the feels. That's all I got on that.
Yeah. I mean, and even in that capacity, right? Like, I could tell you there was a lot of better ways we could have played some of those games, right? Like, there was many ways we could have improved. At the end of the day, like, there will always be a bigger fish, and there will always be a stronger level to get to. Like, peak Unite is never going to happen because you will never be perfect at anything. So don't.
That old caveat always gets me in these arguments. No, I completely agree with you all on all these points. I do think that is the case. It's actually honestly so exciting to me. It's really cool that the game hasn't hit that full level yet. Yeah, I think there is outstanding factors that maybe pull us away from getting to that end result faster than maybe we would have. Some drama pulls you back sometimes in some regions, and sometimes there's circumstances outside of your control that you can't quite perform to your top level in some circumstances. But in the end, I think that Worlds in year number 2 was such a showing of how far the game has come in terms of strategy, in terms of mechanics, in terms of sometimes just player energy and willingness to be on stage and just harness that and become new players. Overlord and Curios have just been such freaking landimals all in NA, in regionals, and then at Worlds. Omo, of course, I'm talking Lewis on stage, in that Mew gameplay. Seriously, there's just these moments that I understand that Unite can be a cool esport, and we're doing it here. And that's moments that make me really, really excited. And obviously I know I'm a big optimist in that. So I am super, super excited for the future of Unite. And folks, egos are going to happen no matter where you go. So it's just
yes, obviously.
Love them or hate them, they exist.
I missed this before, but Toon actually boiled down my feelings into 2 phrases that really rings true. The theoretical peak snipe shot is a good spell. That's how we know. Yeah, that's
that's why right. I laughed in the middle of your sentence. It was nothing to do with what you said. I just read that in the chat.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that, and that is just 1,000% true. There you go.
I love it. Well, I can't wait for year 3 when Toon proves how good Snipe Shot is when he hits every single one. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be really sick.
I do think that in terms of competitiveness, I think that year 2 to year 3 is going to probably be a bigger gap than year 1 to year 2. Because again, no map change means we don't have to relearn portions of the game. We're dealing with the same tools more or less. We don't have to relearn. We don't have to learn draft again, although some could argue that many teams hadn't learned draft in the first place.
Sure. Some could. Yeah.
No map change is basically confirmed.
Yeah, no map change. Yeah, but seeing as we don't have any leaks and we have a bunch of data mines from the next few things, pretty shocking if we get a map change coming up. But
it'd be extremely shocking.
So yeah, we'll see. Let's pivot away and let's focus on year 3 of Unite. So we're headed into a long off season. So let me get some just general podcast shop talk out of the way for people who are listening and kind of wondering what Unite Mix is going to be, or Overdunk is going to be looking like. If the Chinese beta goes global, our podcast is ruined and our name will never work and we'll have to rebrand. So look forward to that. But other than that, it's a long off season. We're going to be making as much content as we possibly can. You can look forward to some cool Unite Mics tournaments upcoming, some other event coverage. It's going to be a lot of fun. Overdone Podcast will still be producing episodes. I want to say it'll be as regular as it normally is. However, things happen, times happen. However, we should be putting out pretty steady content. I'm excited for that. We'll be getting team interviews, player interviews. Maybe we'll even dive into like some bigger worlds of Unite, like talk to some content creators. Who knows? We'll definitely be coming up with some a lot of cool stuff. So don't worry, Overdunk isn't going anywhere. It's not like we're taking an off-season hiatus or anything like that. So with that out of the way, before we end the show, I would love to talk about our personal, us Ven, Deucenex, and Zoinx's, wish list for Season 3. I mean, we did this for Season 2. It was a lot of fun. What would we like to see headed into Season 3? We'll go around the table a couple of times. We can bring some things up. We can talk about it. What do we want to see? Ven, what would you love to see from a Season 3 of Competitive Unite?
Competitive Unite. Okay, I was like...
from the game. I mean, whatever. We'll talk about the game on a different episode. Long off season,
sure.
Okay?
Long off season. We gotta stretch out that content. I can only make so many fucking 600 word Twitter posts.
Yes. That's true. That's true. Counting on you. All right. Yeah.
Anyway,
yes. Sorry. Just sorry to stop you. Chat. Yes, please send in yours. Send in yours as well. So we already got a couple. But yes, Ven, go ahead.
I obviously, this is something I've talked to a lot of people about. Just give us something in the 4 months or so, 4.5 ish. UCS started late February, so I guess 5.
Yeah.
No, I cannot
so
do math.
long.
6.
6 months. It's 6 months. It's
yeah,
so long.
Wow, incredible. How did I do that? Anyway, just give us stuff. Official stuff would be cool. I would really love to have things to talk about in the off season. ACL had some problems with its formatting for sure, and the whole emblem thing, but it was still really hyped to be able to talk about it every week and to watch it and to tilt.
Sure. That's Competitive Unite, baby! I mean, it's the flow of the game.
Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah, more off-season events. I mean, that's that has been a huge player desire. I think if UCS has been getting any feedback from players, I'm sure it is pushing that. Get some more off-season official events, whatever it looks like. I have a bunch of cool ideas that would be fun to see. In my personal opinion, I think it'd be really cool if we started being a part of even regional level tournaments. There's so many, literally every second weekend in North America, there are regional tournament events. It'd be really fun if there was even just a side event for prize wall tickets of a Unite Open, It'd be really cool. You might get one good team to show up. You might get 3 or 4 and just a bunch of pickup teams. That would be so cool. So in my opinion, I would love that. I totally agree with that, Fen. Deucenex, how about you? Season 3, off season, any big wish lists going forward for you?
Yeah, add another ban.
Cool. Yep.
I think that's number one. I've been talking about that for months now. So that certainly hasn't changed. Off-season events, of course, super important to keep people engaged, interested. If we want to keep this thing growing, as we all want to, it's important to not let people forget about it for 4 or 5 months. Yes, I am happy NA won again. I think TCB should open the doors and allow game shots to have CP of I don't agree with that. I just don't think from a store-by-store level there's going to be enough control to give it the brevity that it needs for a world stage event the way that this is. We can't have 6,000 teams show up. And you can't have some team that had a store run an event every single day with no real guardrails. It would logistically would require so much more to do it on a grassroots level, similar to your local game store like TCG and BGC does. To have any control over it. So that's kind of out the window. But I would like to have the structure rethought out, the format to be a little bit more fleshed out, so that we can get the right teams in there, the right volume of teams, and make sure that we can get every team on stage. Those are my hopes for season 3.
Cool. Those are really good. I like them. Yeah, more seed events. You're not super positive on like local events running things, or at least like mass local events doing stuff. I understand that.
Mhm.
If I was to look forward to anything season 3, honestly, a very lofty, dreamy goal that probably won't happen. I want more international competition than just Worlds. I would love something like a mid-season invitational, or even just like if NAIC was opened up to not just North American teams, like if we had maybe a tougher cut, but if we also had, some Latin America teams there, if we were a part of OCIC or LAIC and having like a few different Latin America regions play, that'd be really cool. So yeah, that's another one big on my wish list. Vin, any more for you, or is that do you think we've kind of hit all of them?
I think they. I think, generally speaking, I want them to look at championship points again. First of all, again, I'm still pushing. It's not too late. You can rename them. It's okay. But second of all,
I don't know. It's been a long time, but yes, you're right. I get it.
Like it was arguably an upgrade this year, but I still think
I think it was an upgrade. I'm full on the upgrade train. It's just AOS probably counts for too many, but other than that,
yeah, AOS is functionally speaking for Europe it was a big deal. For North America, it was like kind of the same thing as every other month, except this one is worth more money in points. All right, and like I guess it's just a matter of like the in-person events making those events feel less special somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're definitely onto something there, because like, well, for us, for casters, I will say it felt a little different because we had the chance to do those productions in studio, so they definitely felt like they had a bit more special of an air. But I get what you're saying. Like every other region's AOS Cup compared to EU's AOS Cup looked and felt so extremely different because of that in-person energy. You're absolutely right.
And then
that is something to be
the
said.
same was true of regionals, but to a lesser extent, because regionals is still like there's always going to be that certain level of hype for it because the world spots are on the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's
just always going to be there.
Yeah.
But like I think favoring more points for people who perform better at the end of the year would be good. I think that our championship in February being worth the same as Team YouTube's championship in May is kind of dumb.
Kind of. It's so hard to make those delineations in our season format, which is like kind of a hybrid between sport, like traditional sports and esports, right? Where we have like a tournament based structure, which is very esports, but it ends in a big playoff, which is very traditional sports. So it is strange, but you're right. That is something to be opened up in conversation. Dupe's next. How about you? Any other big wish lists for season 3 or off season?
Yeah, I just want to tackle real quick. VGC regionals and stuff are globally open, aren't they? The demand of a 5-person Unite team against another 5-person Unite team is drastically different than loading up a Game Boy game and firing up with 6 Pokemon. I mean, it's not the same. It's just not. That's why a prep for Worlds is literally VGC setting up a table with a cable link in between them, and us is literally a crime scene of cables and things like that to make sure everything's balanced.
Yeah,
so,
stage production's pretty wild.
It's just not the same. I understand where you're coming from, and ultimately, like if internet was perfect and everything and everybody worked above board and did things correctly, sure. But that's just not in the world in which we operate. Big wish list items. Yeah, I have to agree that the major tournaments having a little bit more parity with the other ones in terms of like the brevity that it feels. Like you said, Zoinks, like it felt nice for us as casters. Like we felt more invested because we were in studio, we were together. It was it was honestly just a really good bonding session for the casters themselves. Because like after every event, we'd literally go back and talk Unite for like 7 hours while playing Unite.
We
So
really like this game, people. Like everyone on the casting team, like adores this like competitive scene, this game, and like all we do is talk about it. Like that's literally all we do. I hope everyone is like very aware of that, and I hope that comes across on stage, because that is definitely what we're pushing, which is great. Just great.
And yeah, I mean, big wish list, I guess the other item, which isn't necessarily structure or anything like that, but it was mentioned. I am Moo. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I hope more orgs get interested in Unite. To be honest, I agree.
Yeah.
I think we need to do a better job to be able to sell ourselves as a collective. I think some individuals are doing a good job. I think obviously, you know, if you're a top level team, your resume, air quotes, speaks for itself. But I think you have to be able to find ways to deliver on other axes and really present yourself as a team that is willing to do more than just play the game itself. I know ideally in a perfect world as an esports athlete, air quotes, you should be able to just focus on the game. But right now, you know, the esports ecosystem is in a downswing, of course. So you have to be able to bring tangible value in other ways. So yeah, LG brings tangible value by winning stuff. But like other words, you have to be able to, you know, whether it's sell the t-shirt, whether all these things, you know, get creative in those endeavors. I think we'll be able to find success in those ventures. And I think, Ven, you're going to say something here, which obviously you're far more in the know with these orgs than I am. So please take it away.
So like, you know, like I was a big part of a lot of the discussion in off season while we were trying to find an org and everything, right? People, I think, I mean, like, you know, the World Championship title mattered a lot, but like generally speaking, orgs are looking for, they care more about your stream numbers than anything else. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that wasn't true of Luminosity specifically, because Luminosity was a very unique case, but like most like the mid-tier orgs that were like people should be gunning for right now, are going to be the ones that really care a lot about what you can provide for them in terms of numbers. You know, LG doesn't just win things. Like Overlord, whenever he streams, gets like 300 plus viewers, right? Like Flash is one of the bigger YouTube channels in Unite.
It's true.
Like those things are all really, really important. Content creation is the core of making, like, getting yourself a good sponsor. And there are some teams that do that well. You know, TTV, YouTube, they're literally named after content creation websites, and they make content.
They do great
crazy.
Content. Yeah.
They're good at it. But like, I don't want to throw them under the bus too hard, but hey, how many people at ASU streamed?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like picking on them because they're the NA one that's really obvious to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's a lot of teams that could be better about selling themselves, right, and selling their personalities. And that's the actual way you get money in this scene. And the other way you as fans can contribute to people getting money is by buying stuff.
It's true.
Esports fans, notoriously stingy.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, Doopsnacks and Ven have clearly been hanging out. The amount of times that Doopsnacks has had this conversation with me it's quite a lot.
Please,
it's correct. It's so correct. Like, you gotta and just yeah, I think we'll be ending the episode real soon here. But as we're looking to get more orgs involved with the scene, and we're just talking about, like, yes, players want to sell themselves and all that stuff. We definitely want to see more from players trying to push in that regard. The same's true from the fan base, right? Yeah, you can support monetarily for sure in those things when orgs do come up, but while players are looking for orgs and things like that, hang out on those streams, support your favorite streamers, you know, make that time and try to invest in your favorite content creators, because they're working really, really hard. So let's try to help them out, especially when we're headed into off season. Winter is long, friends, for everybody. So let's definitely try to be in our streamers chats and hanging out and boosting that up. Grassroots tournaments, all of it.
Speaking of streamers and opportunities to get signed to orgs, are the CEO of Luminosity, Alex Gonzalez, Alex Geologics on Twitter, he just tweeted today that he wants to sign a Unite content creator. that would be great for the scene for him to pick up another one up.
Mm-hmm.
So please, everybody, go to his tweets. Preach the gospel of your favorite content creator. Vouch for everyone. Like, show him your enthusiasm, because that will translate into more investment into the scene.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, with that being said, I guess it's a pretty good segue into plugs. So, Ven, is there anything that you want to sell out, shout out today before we close up this episode?
Yeah, I mean, besides that, just obviously happening, but we're it's off season. There was one thing that we didn't touch on, was one of the other controversies that came out of the Worlds, Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
I'm working with some people to try to get a charity tournament set up in order to help support the victims of the fire there.
Yeah.
We haven't worked out the details entirely. As many people already know, I've already dedicated all of my regionals earnings for that. I will also be dedicating one of my Luminosity jerseys for that too. So that's going to be part of the giveaways for whenever that ends up happening. So
Doob Snacks, now's your time.
Look out for future. Look out for more details of that in the future.
Sweet. Okay, I'm really excited for that event. That's going to be really, really cool. Doob Snacks, how about you? Anything to sell out, shout out before we close up shop?
Yeah, we'll be focusing Unite Mics as well. Our emote initiative money will be going towards that cause as well. If we're going to go to Hawaii, the least we can do is do our best to make sure it is in a state in which we want to go, and of course leave it in a state which the residents there would want it to be in as well. And if financially supporting is the best way we can do that, that's what we're going to do. So
Absolutely.
That brings me to the next point, emote initiative. If you sub or primes up to us, we don't keep a dime. We donate it at the end of each month. I post the receipts on Twitter at Unite Mics, which is the other thing you need to follow. And to reiterate Ven's point, if you want esports to make it, I mean, you got to spend money. It's just how it works. Like, of course, people are pulling out of online esports sponsorships because they're not seeing a dime back, right? Because everybody's watching everything for free. Nobody's putting a cent back into it. And that's just the nature of the beast. Like, if people want to feel like their money is worth something to invest in, they've got to see some sort of return. That's just the world we live in. So I'm not saying break your bank. I'm not saying mess up your financial future. But we all know there's a couple bucks that we could probably send into the direction to make sure that we're keeping this game trending in the way we want and getting the sponsors and the activity that we want. And, you know, from the Unite Mic standpoint, I mean, we've run until Kind of Fit, Kind of Fact came along. And then even after that, like, we ran every Unite Mic's Mayhem at a deficit, right? Like, that's just... It's not financially viable, of course, long term, but it's what we're doing to try and give events back to the community in the off times, in the off season, and get people excited about different things and teams and watching these great teams play. So it's just the fact of the matter. If you want to get these sponsors involved and interested, you got to be willing to shell out a couple bucks on a call to action, right? If it's $3 to get whatever, I'm making something up, a skin or whatever in a game that you support, right? Like, you got to spend the $3 so that they know that that call to action worked, and then they're willing to spend more money down the line. That's how it works. Peace, love, and hugs. That's all I got, Zoinks. That was long-winded, but there it is. Back.
I will say, obviously, our calls to try to support your scene, your content creators, your competitive community, all of that can definitely feel lofty, but I do want to say the support has been very well felt, at least on our broadcast side. I was looking at the numbers. We tripled viewership easily from last year's Worlds. Like, if you look at our live YouTube streams, we're sitting for day 1 and day 2 at 600 some thousand views in total on those lives, compared to last year's Worlds, which are sitting around 200 some thousand. So just amazing work, everybody. I really do think that the community is very excited about Unite. So that is, we definitely, big call to action, but also, hey, we've been doing pretty good too. So congratulations in that regard. Follow Unite Mics on Twitter, like Deuce Next said. Also, of course, youtube.com/Unite Mics. And in terms of this podcast, next week will be a pretty basic episode, kind of another one where we're discussing the season going forward, things like that. The episode after that, we're going to be doing what we did last year, and I'm going to have a guest on from every other competitive Pokemon title, and we're going to have a bit of a roundtable discussion on Worlds as a whole when it comes to all of competitive competitive Pokemon. So look forward to that. I'm going to have a VGC caster, a Go caster, and a TCG caster on to discuss kind of the state of competitive Pokemon. It's going to be really fun. The last episode we did last year was one of my favorites. It was really, really cool. So if you have a friend who's into TCG but not really into Unite, tell them to check out that Overdunk episode. It'll be really cool. But until then, we'll see you all next time. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great night. Later.